Good evening. Welcome to Central News for Thursday, the 22nd of August. I'm Hilary Entwistle. In today's news, two Hamilton locals have proved that poor vision does not have to stop you from becoming champions. Sue Curran and Christine Foster have returned with a bronze and silver medal after competing at the World Blind Bowls Championships in Worthing, England last month. Their team, the Blind Jacks, returned home with 4 medals, their biggest haul yet. After battling the extreme heat in Worthing, facing temperatures of around 28 degrees each day, Sue and Christine were determined to do well and represent New Zealand with pride and passion. The ladies said their experience was an amazing opportunity to meet people from all over the world while doing something they love.
When we went to England, we didn't know at all what we were going to expect, and we got down to Worthing and met all the other countries. There were 9 other countries playing, and it was just the atmosphere of being there, having the opening ceremony. You see these things on TV, having the opening ceremony, the national anthems, all the teams parading in uniform, and then starting to actually play the competition. It was just absolutely wonderful, and just the companionship, comradeship between the teams, the winning and the losing, nobody seemed to mind. We're obviously all out there to do as best we could, but the winning and the losing, it didn't matter. We became very much friends within the groups and the teams.
Synthetic cannabis will remain on the shelves of 3 Western Bay Plenty retailers after they were granted interim licences by the Ministry of Health to sell the product. A total of 11 local retailers applied. Protesters gathered in Te Puke yesterday to voice their concerns about retailer Puff To Go selling synthetic cannabis. The Puff To Go store is one of a number of retailers still being considered by the ministry. Now for our region's weather, Hamilton, your Friday will have a few showers with a westerly wind. Your expected high is 15 and an overnight low of 3. Fine spells and then an occasional shower for you, Tauranga. Your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of 6. Just ahead, the fight to reduce pokies in Hamilton. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Hamilton has lost almost $23 million in the last year to the 460 pokie machines which exist in pubs and clubs around the city. It has been identified that this kind of personal expenditure increases both poverty and harm within our region. Cheryl Smith has spent the last month campaigning to see a decrease in the number of machines available within Hamilton. We caught up with her to find out how it has been going.
So at the start of the month you held a meeting as part of your campaign. What was this meeting about?
Yeah, it was for anyone in the community really, particularly people that are in community groups who wanted to make a submission to council on their local gambling policy review that's all happening at the moment. So we wanted to be supportive and provide resources and information, and also just have people gather, as a group to talk about what they might want to know for their submission.
How often do the council review local policy?
I understand that they review the policies every 3 years. But if they are not making any changes or amendments to those policies and they just want to roll them over perhaps, they don't have to do any sort of full public consultation about that. It's when they want to make a change that they call for public consultation, and so that happens at least every 6 years.
Do you think the chance for the public to have a say doesn't come around often enough?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because if there are, sometimes we want changes, like in this case we'd really like to have a sinking lid with no exceptions, and I think people feel strongly about that. So the more people can speak out and the more opportunity they have for that, the better it is as far as we're concerned.
So you have said before that gambling harms us all. How?
When you think about one person that has a problem with gambling themselves, and the stress level that they might experience around that, all the things that are happening with them in terms of losing their money, getting worried about things, getting distracted in terms of their relationships with other people because a lot of their thinking is focused around gambling, you start to then think about what's actually happening in those families and those relationships with their partners, and what's the stress level in the household like when there's a person dealing with all of that and maybe not being open about what it is that they're dealing with. So from there, you've got families in distress, maybe without enough resources. So they might be approaching community groups for either for help or support, or even for things like food parcels, food banks and that sort of thing. And if there's any crime involved, then we've got a whole justice system. Sometimes even family violence, we've got police involved. So those kinds of things involve all of us, really. It's hard to conceive now, for me, it's hard to conceive of gambling as being the isolated thing that sometimes it's portrayed as. Problem gambling, that is, yeah.
Now you're presenting a submission based on a clinical perspective after dealing with people who are struggling with gambling. So what sort of things will this submission contain?
What I'm wanting to really talk about, because we get 5 minutes each to make our submissions, and so it has to be pretty much to the point. And what I'm wanting to convey is the effects on those people whose voices sometimes aren't heard, which is the partners and families and children often who are suffering as a result of gambling harm happening in their family or with people that they know. So I'm really wanting to make sure that council know that the impact is much broader, just as you've asked me, the impact is much broader than a person with a problem with gambling.
What has the public support been like in the form of submissions?
Really good. Where we've managed to get out and get people talking about what their feeling is about pokie gambling in particular, we know that there's a strong feeling about reducing the number of pokies. The reason that that's useful is because under current legislation, it really is our only and best form of reducing the number of pokie machines is to get a sinking lid, and that's a true sinking lid that we want with no exceptions. So a lot of people are telling us they know somebody, and it didn't used to be the case quite so much a couple of years ago, but what I found is now I kind of end up saying to people, gee, everybody knows somebody, it seems.
Ideally, what would you like to see changed in regards to the way that Hamilton does gambling?
Yeah, at the moment, as I say, with the current legislation, the best that we can do is ask the council to put in a sinking lid that has no exceptions to it, because at the moment there are exceptions, and so if a venue is going to close, we would like the machines to be gone and not replaced. At the moment, people can apply to the council for various reasons to get those machines replaced, so that maybe the numbers aren't growing, but they're certainly not reducing either. And because of the ease of access that people have to pokie machines in our community and the high risk that's involved when people access them frequently, we think that reducing the number is a really good way of addressing that to begin with.
Now the hearing date has been brought forward, so when can the public expect to be aware of the decision that has been made?
Yeah, apparently it's quite a quick process, I was finding out. So our submissions are heard in the morning, the council will deliberate in the afternoon, and once they've had their deliberation time, they will come out with a decision. So whether that's announced on the same day or the next day, it's pretty quick.
And what have you got planned for Hamilton?
What'll be really great is one of the bits that I enjoy about my job is getting out to the base, which is next Friday, the 30th, I believe, of August, to just meet with people, hand out free resources, chat with people and find out what their thoughts are. Always really good for me to know how the depth of feeling is increasing about pokie gambling in particular. And yeah, we're going to be outside the warehouse at the base between about 10 and 2.
Keep watching for an update as to what the outcome of today's hearing has been, as we hope to be able to update you sometime next week. Coming up next, the Prime Minister on local government. Welcome back. Is Auckland overpowering the rest of the country? This has been a big topic recently. I spoke with the Prime Minister about the Auckland Super City structure and whether this would ever be adopted for our regions. Inflated house prices, topical issue, big issue. You've just released some new policy around that.
We have. Okay, so what's happening is house prices across the country are generally rising. generally orderly, but in the case of Auckland and Christchurch, there are pinch points in the system. So why is that in Auckland? Two factors. One, because you had the global financial crisis, a lot of developers went broke, finance companies that supported them went broke, so you just weren't building enough homes. And secondly, first home buyers, who form quite a big part of the market, they were a bit nervous about losing their job. 2009, 2010, just a little bit nervous they'd keep their job or get a job. So a bow wave of demand built up. Second thing is with migration, people coming, say, from Dunedin to come and live in Auckland, or coming from Shanghai to live in Auckland, those numbers are net very positive now. So we have been building, very broad terms, 4,000 homes a year, new homes in Auckland. To just take care of the population growth, you need 13,000. So what we've done is a few things. One, reached an agreement with Auckland Council, they'll consent 39,000 new homes over the next 3 years, so a lot more homes will be produced because it's a supply issue. Two, basically reform the Resource Management Act so it speeds up the release of land, because that's what's really driving it. So 10 years ago, median house section price in Auckland, 100 grand, today 325,000. So it's land that's driving the issue. Thirdly, training more builders, and carpenters and tilers and people associated with the industry, so they're there. Fourth thing is we're giving more assistance to first home buyers, and that's through the KiwiSaver subsidies and things we announced on the weekend. So no one thing will fix it, but the overall package will help.
Your government is a strong advocate of the Auckland Super City. Do you think it has been a success?
In my view, yes. I mean, it's a bit of a different issue solely from the housing issue. Housing issues are somewhat a release of land and various other issues. But you had 7 councils plus the regional council, so we put those together. The savings in terms of administration quite high. You got one voice in Auckland, Len Brown, so love or hate it, you can get a voice. And so if you think about the Sky City Convention Centre, personally we're deeply in favour of it. I can give you a chapter and verse why we think that's a good thing. But you had Len Brown supporting it, and even though some councillors were opposed, in reality you get movement. It's the same thing around the CBD rail tunnel or various other projects we're working on. If we'd had 7 councils in the TLA, I don't think we would have got there.
What are the areas of the Super City structure that you think need improvement?
Well, there's certainly still more behind the scenes work that needs to be done. They're integrating those 7 systems, everything from computer systems and things. They need to get through that process of adjustment on rates because every different city rated in a different way, so that is causing some digestion issues for people. There's been some talk about whether the Maori Statutory Board has worked very well. A lot of range of views on whether that's worked effectively. But I mean, overall, I think you've got to give the council a reasonably big tick. I think they're doing their job and they're getting on with it.
And will the national government be considering adopting a similar model for Waikato and the Bay of Plenty?
We're not planning to drive that in the same way we did with Auckland. So you've got to remember we inherited a Royal Commission of Inquiry into Auckland because the previous government was deeply frustrated with the way things were working and no one thought it was working. So having got to that point, it would be very odd to have a Royal Commission just say, look, thanks very much, it was lovely, but we're not going to do anything. And we actually anyway didn't believe the previous system was working any more than the previous government had. So we carried that out. What we have done is change the Local Government Act to make it easier for communities to choose to amalgamate. So we're not saying that every region should be a super area or a super city. The Waikato needs to think about, okay, does it want to live in councils and would there be benefits of having consolidation? There are many ways to skin a cat, of course, and in your area, I know because I've met with all of your mayors at some point or another, they are constructively often working with each other. So their back office, they have shared services and different things. So it's not really for us to force it upon them, although there are some in local government that would love us to do it because they think it's the right thing to do, but politically hard to achieve. But our preference is to leave it in the hands of the voters.
Tomorrow night we talk tourism with the Prime Minister. Just ahead, Restyle. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. Restyle Trash to Fashion is a trust which is seeing everyday waste turned into creative pieces of art and clothing. The entries are already coming in and will be displayed on stage at one of Hamilton's most creative and visually stunning cultural events. We caught up with the Restyle team to see just what we can expect from this year's show.
So Maureen, what sparked the idea for Restyle?
Back in 2000 I was approached by the Festival of the Environment organiser to organise an event for the festival the coming year, and we got a little committee together and we threw around ideas of what would interest the youth and the community, something we wanted to get people involved in the event, and so fashion was the winner, and the idea came up that, you know, to make fashion out of rubbish, really.
And what were you hoping the creation of the event would achieve?
Well, we saw it as just a one-off event at that stage, and really just to get people along to the festival, and also to get people to think outside the square about, you know, what you can do with your waste, and that you can reuse things, recycle things, and that was the idea.
Now this year the event will be moving to a new venue, so can you tell us more about that?
The idea came up from Amy Jansen-Lean, who's the new events coordinator. We appointed at the end of last year, and Amy, she was involved in WOW down in Wellington for a number of years, and she has looking at new concepts, ways of making the event sustainable going forward into the future. And we like the idea of having a runway down the middle so everyone can actually see the garments. And so she came up with the atrium at Wintec, and I think it's going to be a fabulous venue for the event.
So when is this year's event, and how can viewers get involved?
It's on the 21st of September, and it's not too late to enter if someone out there really wants to create something amazing. The entries do close on Friday, and we'd need the entries in early next week at the latest, and you can buy tickets at Ticketek for the event. There's a matinee at 1:30, and then there's an evening event for the awards ceremony at 7 o'clock, and very affordable. I think it's $25 a ticket for the daytime, and then $30 for the evening.
I'm now here with Prue, who is a textile teacher from Morrinsville College, and we're going to find out how her textile class have responded to this competition. So Prue, can you tell me what your class's reactions are to the competition, and how excited are they about this year's event?
Oh, well, because I've been doing this at Morrinsville College for 10 years, everybody expects it to happen each year, and they really want to be in the class, and yeah, they seem to really love doing it. They're there almost every lunchtime. I have to kind of kick them out so I can go and eat my lunch, and yeah, it's really, really well received.
So for this year's competition, how many entrants are coming from your classes, and what sort of things can we expect in terms of garments and creative art and that sort of thing?
Well, we've got 10 entries, I think. There's 2 single ones, and the rest are in groups of 2 or 3. And yeah, they're using all sorts of really interesting things. It's always hard to think of something different, but I've got a garment made out of old sheet music that's looking pretty cool, and another one that's made from beanbag beans, all threaded on cotton, and yeah, that's taken a long time, and it's looking pretty cool as well. There's plastic and fabric. They've really enjoyed the themes of the competition this year too. It's great.
Great. Well, we are going to go and talk to some of Prue's textile students who have entered in previous year's event and are also entering in this year's. Now, in the past, you've both done very well with your previous entries. So can you tell us more about your last entry?
Last year, 2 of my classmates and I, Sophie Masterson and another Sophie, we got the idea to use can tabs or recycled that we gathered from school and our teachers and friends and stuff, and to sew it on a old ball gown dress that we got from the op shop. And I think in the end we ended up with 4,500 can tabs on it, and we each put in 100+ hours at home, including 3 to 4 times a week in class. And it was a lot of work and a lot of dedication to get to it, but it turned out really well, and we were very proud of it, even though it did cause quite a lot of hard work and friction between us.
So where do you get the ideas to use certain materials to create such amazing garments?
On a holiday, I actually have a work on a holiday, so I work at the bakery and thinking about the receipt that they throw a lot away. So I just thinking about that I can create it to something else that look interesting, and then I make it to a dress. Yep, and use it to a dress.
And so you said before that it can take up to 100 hours to create a garment. So is this kind of time typical of most garments, or does it sort of depend on what material you use?
Well, yeah, it definitely depends on what we use. We chose quite a difficult material to work with. But Yeah, it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of time management, but the harder materials definitely do take a lot longer. And there was a lot of dresses that were finished way before we were, and we were still working at 1 o'clock in the morning the night of the competition. So yeah, it does take a long time.
Great. Well, we're going to go catch up with Aroha, who is the owner and designer of the fashion label Shakoba, and also one of the judges of this year's Restyle competition. So how did you end up getting involved with Restyle as a judge?
Well, initially, Shakoba was approached to sponsor the Restyle event, and I thought it was a really great idea because I'm a local label and I have sustainable values as well. I got to talking with Amy, who was approaching me, and she found out I'd done judged a few other shows which are similar, and she asked if I wanted to become one of the judges, so I agreed.
And what sort of elements do you look for when you are judging an entry?
We have a criteria. We look at the visual impact of the whole outfit and how it's put together. We look at the process of how they've used the recycled components, also construction, the quality of the garment, and how it fits into the category that it's been entered into.
What are some of the categories for this year's event?
Well, for the young ones, we've got underwater. That's the year 5 to year 8. And then for our secondary schools, they've got 2 categories. They've got Beneath the Twilight and Trashy Time Travel. And for the open division, we've got Seeing Red and Avant-Garde, of course. Yeah, so it's quite exciting.
What are some of the rules that entries must abide by?
The main rule is that it has to be made of some recycled components. So just so that it's reused, recycled.
And what do you enjoy the most about the event?
Well, I love these kind of events anyway. I love seeing what the designers come up with and being surprised and delighted by what they actually create with certain things that are used every day and you don't even think about, but when they've created in a certain way. So yeah, it's really exciting seeing that.
For a night of art, fashion and a theatrical showcase, visit restylehamilton.co.nz. The show will be held on the 21st at Wintec Atrium. That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook. Let us know your views. If you have news including your own video and photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I will be here again tomorrow night with more guests from in and around our regions. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.